All right. Hello, everyone, again. Welcome again, and good morning or good afternoon from a snowy Estonia to you. It seems that winter has finally reached us in the middle of February, so here we are. Feel free to let us know where you're connecting from. I see some of you are from Estonia even as well, Germany, Kazakhstan. Great to see you. So, as we see that people are still joining, let me start with a short introduction for our session today. So my name is Jana Son, and I'm a Senior Account Executive here at Cloud Services, and I will be the presenter of our session today. I'll take a few minutes just to introduce us as a company so that you know why we're in the position to speak about Fabric, how we work with Fabric, what we've done, and then we'll move on to the presentation itself, where we'll look into what Fabric is, what are its components, architecture, what are the changes that Microsoft has introduced with this platform, and of course we'll touch upon some of the more interesting features and that were recent additions in the last couple of months, as well as some features more focused on AI, which should be interesting. So, as I said, at Cloud Services, we are a Microsoft partner. So we are a cloud solution provider and provider of professional consultancy services and development services and managed services, all of the good stuff across Europe, US, and the UK. So we currently have offices in Estonia, Slovenia, as well as entities in UK, US, and Ukraine as well. And whilst we do have different specializations apart from Fabric, which focus more on the traditional migrations into cloud, server migrations, VDI projects, and app innovation, our key competency for a long time now has been in the data space, and more specifically in data warehousing and analytics. And with this, we have been working with Microsoft for a long time. So we started our journey in 2019 when Azure Synapse Analytics came out as the data warehouse platform. And of course, we've been working with Power BI as well. And then as of recently, we've been working as early adapters of Fabric with the Microsoft Fabric product team for more than 2 years, even before it came out in preview and in general availability. And of course, now it's been GA for over a year already. So we've had a lot of experience working with that as well. And because we are a Fabric featured partner by Microsoft, they trust us to run these workshops and webinars as well. Just generally speaking, we do hope that this means that you get a good overview from us on what Fabric is, what you can do with it. And following the presentation, should you be more interested in a tailored workshop or getting more information on Fabric, we are also very happy to provide that. And Microsoft is very supportive here for customers who are interested in hands-on experiences with Fabric. I'll mention that more as well, but just to say on the outset that there are programs that would support not just a webinar experience, but a POC, pilot project, MVP building on Fabric, as well as deployment fundings are also available. But in the meantime, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. In the interest of time, I won't be taking any live questions today, but we will try to get back to you on the questions from the chat if there will be any by the end of this. Then also let me know in the chat now. I will start sharing my screen if you see it, and we will be good to go. Just to double check that you can actually see the presentation, because it can be a bit tricky sometimes. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Manara. So let's start with Microsoft Fabric. So in the session, we will look closer at what's changed in building data warehouses, generally speaking, and the reporting solutions, analytics all together with the introduction of Microsoft Fabric. And we'll get a peek into the architecture, the components, the different engines, and the latest and greatest advancements, and what drives them from technology perspective. The presentation part itself will take probably around 40 minutes or so, followed by a couple of case studies of customers, just to give you an understanding of the real life scenarios or cases that we are working with, and we'll finish with a short demo of Fabric itself. Now, when we talk and start with analytics from the beginning, from the bigger picture, of course, it's the process of uncovering something hidden in your data. But really, in the process, we do have predictable patterns in how we set up these solutions architecture-wise. So we do have typically an integration layer, an engineering layer, data warehousing layer, business intelligence on top that's consuming it via our reports. And of course, we do increasingly add additional stuff on the data once it's prepared, such as working with it from data science perspective, and AI, of course, as well. But for all these pillars, Microsoft already, even before Fabric, had a rich product portfolio, so you might be familiar with it. For data integration, we had Azure Data Factory or Synapse pipelines. For engineering and warehousing, we had Synapse Spark, have dedicated and serverless SQL pools. Azure Data Explorer was there for real-time analytics, Azure Machine Learning for data science, etc. Of course, probably the most recognizable of them is the Power BI business intelligence pillar, which is the go-to tool for reports. And you'll see that's really fundamental for the Fabric setup as well. So far, though, with this variety of different solutions, we can say that it's been like juggling multiple products, storage accounts, integrating them to work together, and it can be quite a complex architecture. The reason being that if we have different products, we might have different philosophies and methodologies in how they work, let alone cases, for example, where you have multiple vendors or even multiple tools in big corporations used for the same purpose. So it's not uncommon to even have, for example, Power BI and some reporting in Qlik and even some reporting in Tableau. So it applies to any other part of the process as well in the pattern, and it can be quite burdensome from development and maintenance and support perspective to manage such a setup. And of course, technically integrating them can also be a task in itself, but also the fact that there are multiple agreements more likely than in place with different vendors and contractors with different pricing logics. So it all builds up. But we still need to deliver a smooth flow of data, right, as a data team. So to get the data from our systems that collected to reports and end users. So in many cases, we can say that there was room for improvement with this complex architecture and room to provide customers with a single point of truth for their data where possible. And actually, that's the main challenge that Microsoft recognized as well in the analytics landscape and in the industry and tried to address with Fabric. So Fabric, as I said, has been generally available now for over a year. So that means that it's fully covered by SLA. You're free to test it. You can buy it. It's fully supported and fully being developed as well. Still with new enhancements and capabilities coming on a monthly, sometimes even weekly basis. But when we look inside, what it really is the one and only product on the market at the minute that is a complete yet comprehensive analytics platform. And by everything, we mean data engineering, integration, BI, other data workloads, real-time analytics, databases. They all come together in one single graphical user interface, and also it's all in one single shared platform. So with the complexity that can be common with data tools, as we just discussed, this is very much a step towards a platform that's closer to diverse stakeholders in terms of getting different peers to collaborate in one place. And it's an accessible platform. It's a platform that caters for all your steps throughout data processing, and it becomes much easier with Fabric to access and share and generally work with data. And so we can really say that it's kind of like a one-stop shop that tries to cater toward any and every role that's working with data, whether it's a data engineer or a data analyst or just a user that's consuming the reporting. Fabric will be tailored as an experience for them, depending on what they need to access and work with on a daily basis. Furthermore, Fabric is grounded in open standards. So it's very lake-centric and open. Everything is about data lakes. And here, notably, Microsoft has embraced open source very hard. This specifically relates to the format of storing data in the Fabric multi-cloud data lake, which we'll focus more on in details because it does deserve a further explanation, as it's a big change. Fabric is much closer to the business user, and the idea behind the scenes is the following. So Microsoft, as I mentioned, very much embraced Power BI here to be the service interface for any and every interaction with Fabric across data engineering, again, Spark workloads, warehousing, as well as the BI itself. And the idea there is that Power BI had a very large user community, so it made sense for them to go via that route and combine it under the umbrella of the Power BI interface. So if you're working with Fabric, maybe you've already tested it, tried it out a little bit, you'll be faced with the familiar setup of different workspaces, which can be tailored depending on the need that that workspace serves. They can be differently assigned to licenses, which we can get to later as well. But that's the idea, that it's familiar. It's not an additional interface to learn if you're familiar with the Microsoft stack, so there's nothing new in terms of that experience. In other ways that it remains close to business is that it's natively integrated into all of the Office experiences. Can be built into Teams, used with Excel, SharePoint, all the good stuff. And of course, here important to say that the data availability goes together with the respective permissions end to end. So if you do restrict certain people or groups to only seeing specific data in Fabric, you can be sure end to end that they will work with only the data that they are supposed to see, even if you then utilize that reporting or any other part of it outside of the Fabric interface itself. Another cool thing to note is that Fabric includes multiple tools that have a low-code or no-code experience. So, for example, what we had before was the Dataflow Gen 1, and it will be familiar to many from, again, Excel and Power BI. It's Power Query, graphical interface for performing transformations. That still remains in Fabric as Dataflow Gen 2, so a newer version. But still, for example, we have the possibility to visually see and manipulate data transformation processes rather than needing advanced coding or scripting skills. There's also other tools that remain no-code experiences, even if we're talking about real-time intelligence, again, or working in building out certain AI skills, functionalities. So there are options for people with varying levels of technical expertise, shall we say. And of course, I mentioned it many times, Fabric is AI-powered, helps us not only to get the data ready for AI, but does at this point already provide multiple tools, again, to actually work with the AI experience as well. And we'll come back to it at the end. So on this slide is what we have inside Microsoft Fabric, which is multiple engines for different workloads. More specifically, we have Data Factory here as well, but the Fabric version of it, which is, again, more advanced with a different, a little bit functionality set than the original Azure Data Factory, because there's just, again, more and more coming to Fabric from this perspective in terms of development. So we also have Fabric Spark here. We have data science again covered, Fabric warehousing, real-time analytics and real-time intelligence, Power BI, and something new in the Microsoft data platform stack is Data Activator. So that's a brand new addition, also a low-code environment of a sort, which allows us to define and automate actions based on the different figures that are generated by our Power BI reports. So, for example, it can read everything you have in your data sets in real time, and you can define triggers for different actions and flows or notifications. And those triggers can be simple as well as complex ones. So you can picture detecting a certain pattern in your changing data, not just a simple threshold, and that can become a trigger, again, to trigger a Power BI flow, Power Apps flow, sorry, or to send you a message via Teams, or to notify you in any other way, or make some other updates. So a lot of automatization is happening now on top of the data and reporting that we build in Fabric. But all in all, as you see, Fabric is one place with one single graphical user interface where we can build an end-to-end analytics solution, and it's delivered to you as a SaaS, so solution as a service product, and it provides common architecture, again, central governance, and Office-like experiences, because it's a shared platform that combines all of these engines that you see on the screen into one. And of course, to pause on the data security and compliance capabilities for a moment as well. So Fabric is tightly integrated with Microsoft Purview, which is the risk management and compliance solution from Microsoft as well. So it has a Purview hub, but also there's possibility to access reports on different insights on data sensitivity, things like that. But of course, you can seamlessly integrate it with the full-scale Purview itself if you're looking to do data quality and things like this there separately. But how does this platform actually come together? So what's changed to be able to provide all of these engines in one unified space? So if we're talking about the details, one of the biggest game changers here is that Microsoft introduced the concept of universal compute capacities. So you can picture it like a virtual machine in terms of it being a shared resource, but it's not obviously a virtual machine. It's a versatile compute resource. But it means that you can use it for any workload, be it running a data factory pipeline, a Spark job, Spark clusters, SQL databases, your lakehouse operations, again, real-time analytics, anything that's possible to be done with these engines. They all can be run off of those universal compute capacities, which are shared across the platform. And it changes how we manage our compute capacity. You have a lot of flexibility here. Of course, it also affects pricing and how that's put together, which we'll go over separately. But in terms of flexibility, you can see how much resource you want to spend on what. You can assign different licenses to different workspaces. If you want to do a separation in terms of either projects or departments, or maybe test dev environments and prod environment. So a lot of flexibility there. And all those powerful engines, again, they seamlessly integrate with OneLake. And OneLake is in Fabric is a data lake storage account. It's only one per tenant, as the name suggests. But behind the scenes, it's not your typical storage setup. It's a distributed storage account that offers to you a SaaSified experience, much like OneDrive. Even visually, it looks pretty much the same. So Microsoft does say that it's your OneDrive for data. So all of their Fabric workloads, they store the data inside OneLake automatically in the storage account, and being distributed, OneLake then automatically provisions as many storage accounts as needed. So it scales itself without the need for you to explicitly configure and manage multiple storage accounts. And we still have a DFS endpoint there, making it compatible with any tools supporting the storage account. So that means that you can seamlessly integrate tools like, for example, Databricks with OneLake for data storage. So in that regard, there's nothing proprietary here. So you're not locked with just one vendor, which makes the solution even more future-proof. But yes, to sum up, all of these different engines, they work on Fabric, store their data in one shared storage account, which is also very easily scalable and managed by Fabric itself. And here, even if your data is distributed across different regions, which might be the case, it's still presented to you as a single storage account. But if we move from where data is stored to how it is stored, here comes into play the second biggest challenge that was addressed after universal compute capacities were introduced, and that's that all the engines, they are optimized to work with the same file format. So they are optimized now to work with Delta Parquet. All engines store data in Delta Parquet, and it's a longer way to change for Microsoft. This is where we come back to Microsoft embracing open source, because Delta Parquet is, of course, an open source format. So for Microsoft, this is a big departure from their own proprietary storage format for SQL databases, and it's a huge change, actually. And throughout going for the Delta Parquet format, it opens up a lot of opportunities for us in building a more flexible, but also more interoperable analytics estate as such. Because again, if you recall how it was in the past, so if you created a database in Microsoft SQL Server, meant that you're using a proprietary storage format. It was accessible only via Microsoft SQL Server. So it was a closed format, only SQL could read it. And now when we work in Fabric and we create a table, for example, one of the engines stores its data in OneLake. Because it's stored in the Delta Parquet format, it effectively makes it accessible by any tool that's compatible with Delta Parquet. And Delta, of course, is very widely used in the open source community. It's optimized for time travel, for parsing and things like this. So lots of advantages there. And what it means in terms of working with Fabric as a single platform is that, again, your analysts, engineers, data specialists generally, regardless of the profile, they might be working with different tools. They're all accessible in this one platform, or even different languages, programming languages, but under the hood, it's the same file format always. So there's no need to be getting data from one certain format to another before different teams can analyze and work with the data. There's no need to get data into a certain format before you can work with it with different engines again. So in that way, one copy here really means no data movement or copying between the engines is necessary. And because we are embracing a lake-oriented approach in Fabric, and we no longer rely on other storage methods, everything is stored in Delta, as we mentioned. This concept then introduces another development, which is pretty cool, and it's called the shortcuts. So Microsoft, with the shortcuts, it now lets us virtualize our data within our OneLake. And we can work with different data seamlessly inside the OneLake. So essentially, shortcuts are like pointers to your existing storage systems to make the data available in OneLake. And of course, the expected thing is that you can point to storage locations within Fabric, like a warehouse or a lake house, for example. But the really useful thing is that we can introduce external data via shortcuts as well. So, for example, from external data storage accounts like ADLS Gen 2 in Azure or Amazon S3 buckets, Google Storage. So basically, we have the capability to use data from very diverse external sources. And the mechanism, so to say, of shortcutting makes it very easy from an integration perspective to get the data. So if your organization already has a storage in a different location, say in S3, and you don't want to copy all that data or move it, you don't have to with shortcuts. So the data stays where it is, and we're sticking to that one copy rule. As to Dataverse, which you can see as well, Microsoft actually changed the file storage format that Delta also. Hence, the data from your Dynamics 365 portfolio of products can also be available in OneLake via shortcuts. So whether it's Business Central, the CRM modules for sales, marketing, customer insights that they have, or F&O, all that can be accessible in Fabric with a much smoother integration experience as well. But there's also, of course, data that's not stored in an open format. So for that, Microsoft has brought out mirroring in Fabric, which means that Fabric can create a reflection of your databases with proprietary storage formats and also bring data to OneLake that way. Once in OneLake, again, the reflected data from the proprietary database, it will be stored in Delta in Fabric, hence, again, available for all of the engines to be working with it. And with mirroring, because of the nature of the word reflection itself, you'd expect that through this functionality, your replica in Fabric should be constantly the same as what's happening in the source. And that's exactly what is happening. So you'll always have real-time updates of the replicas in Fabric with this functionality as well. With mirroring, several sources are already available. As you can see, we have mirroring for Snowflake, Azure SQL databases, Cosmos, SQL managed instances, as well as Databricks catalog, and coming soon as they add these functionalities is mirroring for the on-premises SQL server. That's logical because of the footprint that the on-premises SQL server has, as well as for the newer SQL Server and PostgreSQL and Oracle as well. What's interesting here with mirroring, furthermore, is that the mirroring compute cost is actually free, as well as Microsoft does provide terabytes of storage for free for mirroring based on your capacity size. So Microsoft will give you free storage of up to the number of terabytes that equals the number of compute units you purchased. So for example, if you purchase the smallest possible Fabric license, which is an F2, with 2 capacity units respectively, your compute for mirroring is not billed, and you get 2 free terabytes worth of storage exclusively for mirroring as well. So the same applies to, for example, F64, where you get 64 terabytes worth of storage exclusively for mirroring, and again, compute for mirroring is not billed. So that means that actually you're not using any billed OneLake storage up until the point when you exceed the free terabytes. Only then the OneLake storage will be billed. So that's a really great thing as well. With mirroring, that helps you, of course, save money. So it's worth considering from that perspective. And we looked at the multiple ways, basically, and mechanisms that you can include your data in Fabric from so many various sources. But seeing Microsoft's constant investment into enhancing Fabric as the main analytics platform, it was only a matter of time, really, before they introduced Fabric databases as well. So that announcement went into public preview at Ignite in November last year. And means that now we not only have analytical capabilities in Fabric, but also a transactional database directly available from Fabric. And of course, it's fully integrated into all your other Fabric experiences with the other engines. Actually, Fabric databases, they do use the same engine as the Azure SQL database. But in Fabric, of course, it's a Fabric artifact, so it's easy to configure and manage because, again, Fabric is a SaaS product rather than platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. So you actually don't have the need to configure a database and fine-tune it for performance and manage it in case that is something that you're struggling with from workload perspective or resource perspective at the moment. And of course, we can address OLTP scenarios in Fabric natively as well now. So really important functionality as well. Of course, when we think of what we can do with all of the data that we bring in, whether from integrating with the different sources or keeping the data natively in the databases in Fabric, what we actually can do with all of this interoperability in terms of the engines working with the same format and the same data, well, we can actually virtualize data across analytics estate to get as far as the concept of data mesh. So, of course, data mesh is as much an approach to working with data as it is an architectural design. And it's a way of managing your data in a decentralized manner across the organization. So, on the one hand, giving your business units more independence in working with data, and on the other hand, reducing the need to have one central data team that's responsible for everything, and which sometimes can become a bottleneck in managing different change requests and modeling requests and asking ad hoc questions. So for some companies, it makes sense to consider the data mesh concept, and Fabric makes it possible as well. Because before that, the biggest problem with data mesh was that you need to have a lot of data movement to introduce the same data from the same systems across different domains, because again, there's many separate systems or solutions or tools that need to be integrated. The data needs to be moved across those to be able to work with it from different perspectives. So with shortcuts in Fabric, we do have a single copy of data, and it can be introduced into any of our domains or data marts, etc. So we can access data more easily, and Fabric engines are optimized to work with Delta. But one engine in particular stands out, and let's take a look. And it's the Power BI or Analysis Services engine, and it too can natively read Delta now. And it's a very big change in how we build BI solutions, because in our past approach with Power BI, if you work with it, you're familiar that we have two options when we're building reports in terms of connectivity. We either have the direct query mode or import mode, much like constructing OLAP or MOLAP cubes. And in direct query mode, what is happening is, of course, our reporter generates different queries against Analysis Services engine, which then federates them to a database. So it's a real-time connection. It provides instant access, but it comes with challenges. So each report, of course, can generate 1 to 10 to 50 or even more queries, depending on the complexity of your DAX, complexity of your model structure. And as the number of users then increases of those reports, these queries multiply and they can strain our database, because they are analytical queries, so they are quite heavy on execution. And then you really need to constantly fine-tune your database to be able to perform these while still remaining in work as the database itself. And the rule of thumb with Power BI reports was always that you should import when you can, and only when you cannot to fall back to direct query. And with import mode, what we have is that process involves data movement, so physical data movement, copying data from the data warehouse to Power BI's in-memory storage engine. And through that, it becomes then fast for reporting. But again, there are certain limits with this mode of connectivity, especially when it comes to big models, because not only is memory the most expensive resource you can have, but also in the Power BI world, the data set size is capped depending on the license type. So not to mention that at the maximum possible allowed data set size, it costs you a fortune in terms of licensing. So typically to overcome that, we find workarounds in adding complexities to a model, adding aggregations, incremental refreshes, and it becomes, again, from development and management and maintenance perspective, quite a difficult process. And also with the bigger tables, with this, we cannot always refresh the bigger tables because of the refresh time and again the load. So there were a couple of things that could have been improved ideally. And actually, that's again what Microsoft did with reworking the analysis services engine to read Delta natively. So now we have what's called the direct lake mode in terms of connectivity. So the analysis services engine, it can scan Delta files, basically eliminating the need then for data copying into in-memory, like in import mode, or throwing queries against our database, like in direct query mode. And instead, we just directly scan Delta files in the tables that are located in our OneLake storage. And that really, in terms of performance, is a dream come true as well, because we have the speed of import mode, sometimes even better, but also we are integrated with the table in real time. So it's like a combination of best of both. And as soon as our jobs finish updating the data model, all the updates and inserts, they are available in our reports straight away if we are leveraging Direct Lake. So this really does bring together the three major advancements that we spoke about, that the data is stored in the same format in Delta, through which it's accessible to all engines because they've been optimized to work like that. And this includes the analysis services engine then, which allows us to essentially move away from the refresh and refresh time as a concept, because they are no longer needed. And data is available straight away. So in a way, it does sound a little bit like magic, and you'll see that in the demo part shortly as well. However, this is all for the most part relating to data trust, but with all of that covered, how do we fit in data in motion? Because of course, it's a different approach to working with streaming data, for example, and this type of data analysis. It also serves a different purpose, has a different timeline, and as we say, it requires an event-driven solution rather than a schedule-driven solution. And for that, what we have in Fabric is the real-time intelligence piece, which went into general availability last November as well. So with real-time intelligence, what we can do is we can handle our data ingestion, transformation, again, analytics and tracking, all through the central real-time hub, which includes your event streams, event houses, KQL query sets, and of course, we still have our Power BI and Data Activate there for real-time actions and analysis. And then our underlying storage layer still remains OneLake, of course, as it is cross Fabric. Again, comprehensive end-to-end solutions are real here for real-time scenarios. So with real-time intelligence, what we can do is we can capture and process, of course, real-time events without needing to write any code with just drag and drop even, if again, in terms of varying levels of technical knowledge, we're talking about what can be used. So of course, you can set up event sources, destinations, transformations in the event stream, which would enable you to collect and filter and aggregate, combine data, whatever reshaping of it you want to do before you load it into a destination for further consumption or analysis. And of course, multiple sources and connectors are available here to get event data from, for example, Azure Event Hubs, Azure IoT Hub, of course, Kafka, Google PubSub, Amazon Kinesis, custom endpoints even. Importantly, you can get your database CDC streams there as well. And of course, you can also attach multiple destinations in an event stream to ingest into multiple stores. So you can ingest it into event houses, lake houses, custom endpoints, again, a lot of possibilities there. And of course, being in Fabric, Fabric infrastructure then manages the resources automatically. So it handles the scaling here as well, the reliability and security of your event stream. Again, without the need for you to explicitly manage any infrastructure, because again, it's a SaaS product. So we have both covered in terms of analytical workloads as well as OLTP workloads in Fabric and transactional. But from data perspective, we also have covered data in REST and data in motion conceptually as well. So actually the list of functionalities themselves is really endless here. So the longer I speak, the longer it seems like I should mention everything. But let's move to pricing so that we have time to go over that and a short demo as well. So actually with the introduction of universal compute capacities, as I mentioned earlier, it's become really simple to understand pricing because it's changed. And really, in terms of the Microsoft licensing experience, it's a huge job that was done by the team. It's really just 3 lines in your invoices to understand how Fabric is built. So first, we have the amount of compute you are using from Microsoft, so the Fabric license itself. Second, how much storage you utilize. And the third line reflects Power BI Pro licenses for developers. If we look at them step by step, what is the logic there? So first line, Fabric license, it has different sizes, so from F2 to F2048, depending on the number of capacity units behind it. And this brings predictability to our billing because the capacity you choose is the one you will use for all of your workloads, as we've just seen. But you are limited to it in terms of the license and the price is set. So you can no longer worry about spikes in your invoices at the end of the month because a Spark job was stuck, for example. You are limited to your capacity. And if you try to overutilize it, you will be simply throttled. And in that case, you of course have 2 options then. You can either add capacity units or you can optimize. But actually there is some things that Microsoft thought through as well in terms of allowing you certain bursts at peak times, and then it smooths it out over the time that you didn't use your capacity to the fullest. So it's a very smart mechanism there as well, really flexible and again predictable from a billing perspective, because you have a certain set price for the month for that capacity. You can purchase it via pay-as-you-go, or you can purchase it as a reservation, in which case you can just pay for it monthly, and that's the set price that you can expect to have to pay. Second line in the invoice would be the OneLake storage. It's still $23 or $24 per terabyte, identical to the Azure Data Lake Storage account pricing as well. They're exactly the same, but they do differ a little bit region by region. And the Fabric license price itself also differs region by region. So if you are looking at that, make sure to choose the region where you expect to have your Fabric. And the third line of our billing involves licensing for Power BI, and specifically the Power BI Pro licenses. So generally speaking, you would need to provide your users with a Power BI Pro license without Fabric to access even the reports. With Fabric, the logic is a little bit different depending on the capacity size that you purchase. So there's alignment between Power BI Premium and Fabric capacities in that regard, in that F64 capacities and above are considered the premium capacity, so they come with the Power BI Premium benefits. That means that with F64 and above, you have premium benefits in that all of your users that are just viewing the reports and analyzing data, they don't need any additional licenses. They get the Power BI free license as part of the premium benefit, and they don't need any additional licenses. In that case, with F64 and above, again, only your developers need a Power BI Pro license. Here, important to mention as well that actually the Power BI Premium licenses, Microsoft has removed them. So as a new customer now, you only have the possibility to go via the Fabric SKU. For any capacities that are lower than F64, which are not the premium capacities, and the logic remains that you need the Power BI Pro license then for both the developers as well as people that are just viewing the reports. So other users are not covered because it's not a capacity with the premium benefits. But generally speaking, because there is so much variety in terms of the sizing, you can kind of mix and match. Of course, any additional premium benefits, they will work only in the workspaces that are attached to that capacity. But for example, for maybe some smaller exercises for development or testing where you don't necessarily need F64, you can, for example, keep F64 for just the reports and users to be placed there, and then additionally use some smaller capacities for other workspaces where you cover, for example, the development process, something like this. So again, a lot of flexibility there in how you can manage the compute capacities behind the different workloads and how you can split it and set up the billing for it. So that's actually all there is to the pricing story. So again, 3 lines, quite simple to understand. A bit more complex, of course, to understand which capacity would actually work for you and your project. So that's a different story in how to figure out which capacity you need. But once you do have that understanding, the billing itself is quite simple. Okay, now the fun part for dessert, shall we say, is AI. So of course, you're seeing AI everywhere. Fabric is not an exception. Let's take a look at what it has to offer. Let me play a short video for you.
Next generation AI in Microsoft Fabric empowers you to unlock the full potential of your data. With Copilot integrated into every data experience, Microsoft Fabric lets you use natural language to bring your data to life. From integrating data to writing code, to finding insights and creating reports, new transformative AI experiences work alongside you every step of the way, so you can stay focused on getting value from your data. Copilot helps turn your words into data flows and data pipelines, so you can intelligently integrate data from anywhere. When writing code, Copilot automatically suggests code and entire functions in real time. And Copilot can guide you to create machine learning models to unlock insights in your data. Just by chatting with Copilot, you can visually explore your data to create stunning reports, discover insights, and summarize your data into easy-to-understand text narratives for sharing. With Copilot, you can turn insight into action with triggers that monitor your data and notify users. You can even create your own custom natural language experiences that combine Azure OpenAI models and your organization's data, and easily publish your creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere work gets done. Most importantly, Microsoft Cloud runs on trust, which means your data always remains your data. Bring your data into the era of AI with Microsoft Fabric.
Great. So now we do have the possibility to even chat to our reports directly, which is definitely a game changer in helping accelerate business user adoption for our reporting, which is the whole point in investing so much into putting it all together. So because Copilot here, for example, it not only helps the data specialists, if you will, the engineers or analysts, again, to write code, which it can be helpful for, but it addresses more largely the problem of business user interaction with the report, because it makes it simple and easy to chat directly with the report. They can ask to create a summary, filter the report a certain way, and it's a new way of engaging with and understanding the report. And even that in itself is quite exciting, to be honest. However, the Copilot experience, for example, in the report, it cannot be customized. So it has a certain logic behind it, and it's great for your analysis working directly in the report, but it's not really customizable for your specific data. But there are tools in Fabric that can help you with that. So another great addition to the AI stack is what's called an AI skill in Fabric, worth mentioning because it's a capability in Fabric that allows you to build your own generative AI experiences. And it's a tool that basically, if I just switch here on the slides, you'll see it lets you create your own conversational Q&A systems in Fabric using generative AI, LLMs, and then the features that are NL to SQL, so natural language to SQL. And as a result of this, you can essentially run your own RAG patterns over your own data assets. So in other words, for the business user, they can use natural language to speak to the data in Fabric directly by asking questions in a chat window, and then Fabric analyzes data that can answer that question and gives back the result as an answer with zero coding required. And of course, there's lots happening behind the scenes, but for the user, it's really quite simple. So once you've done the huge mammoth of a job of getting your data to Fabric, preparing it, processing it, cleaning it, you can actually allow your business user to directly choose which tables they want to work with. And by just choosing the tables in an AI skill, sorry, that's a mouthful, just by choosing the tables, they can already start working in the chat to just ask ad hoc questions on the data. And the AI behind the AI skill will figure out what question is being asked in natural language. It will translate it to SQL. It will generate SQL queries that best would match this question. It will test the queries to see which fits better, and then choose one and actually run it on behalf of the user to get them the answer. So it's a really cool technology as well. And once again, if we already prepared all of that data, why not make it accessible to business users in many ways that don't require necessarily a huge effort from our data analyst side, for example? So again, just one of the functionalities that is possible. Of course, in terms of agents and different customized Copilots, you can then bring this out of Fabric through Copilot Studio, for example, make it as a knowledge source in your other agents. You can bring it to Teams in the format of a bot. You can bring it elsewhere. So really, from there on, your fantasy can fly. And that's one of the cool things about all of the data being accessible in one place. So, as I mentioned, Fabric is in general availability, and there is currently still a free trial available from Microsoft as well for you, should you be interested. So you can activate it and test Fabric capabilities for free for 60 days. And actually, an F64 capacity is being provisioned to you when you activate a trial. Certain premium features are not available in the trial version, but in terms of the compute power there, it's a really, really big resource that can be used for trialing and testing. There's a certain threshold for each tenant and customer in Microsoft in terms of how many trials they can activate at the same time. But it varies customer by customer, so we cannot tell you how many exactly you will have, but they are per user trials, so normally it's at least a couple of them available for each organization. But actually, the best way to test Fabric is to apply it to a practical task and actually go ahead and maybe go through a pilot project, build an MVP, for example, going end-to-end from source to report with Fabric. As I mentioned, Microsoft have really nice funding programs here for customers to pilot the technology with the support of a specialized partner. So not only do you have the possibility to organize a one-to-one technical workshop that's supported by Microsoft and delivered by us about Fabric, which also goes through the theoretical part like we did now, but for all of your teams that are involved in working with data, as well as going through a hands-on demo, showing you around Fabric and actually going through a specific use case you might have that you're looking to solve potentially with Fabric. So it's a great way to get started there. But Microsoft also have a funding program and process through us as a specialized partner for Fabric, for example, to do a POC project, which normally lasts around 3 months or so, and your whole team gets hands-on experience and skill with working with Fabric, and you're kind of learning from us. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and figuring Fabric out. And likewise, there's also funding available for deployments thereafter. And again, every step of the way is guided for you as the customer by a partner that's been through it and seen it. So to that end, we actually have already been involved in more than 50 Fabric projects, probably even more at this point in time. So MVPs and deployments both. And we really, as we like to joke, know how to not build a data warehouse or an analytics solution because we've done it so many times and seen it from all possible angles. In terms of the references that we can share with you or present here at least, actually it's just to give you an idea of the applicability, scope and effort of such projects. So as you see, all the 3 companies that are listed here, they're completely different industries, so completely different companies in terms of their structure, processes, line of business applications, but not surprisingly, because we do have patterns in analytics architectures, they face similar challenges. So for these companies in particular, we had to work through large data models, above 450 to 500 gigabytes even, difficult and heavy data sources to integrate with, such as SAP HANA, Oracle, and the like. So many of the cases we see, generally speaking, they involve simplifying the data estate and standardizing the related processes, finding the right methodology to work with data, set it up on a tool like Fabric end-to-end, and with that also try to reduce the number of data transfers or making data available at the moment, or improving the performance, optimizing, all of that is probably very known to you if you're working with data on a daily basis. So all of that can be covered. I know we are slightly over time here, so I will stop sharing my presentation here and quickly jump to the demo space as well. So now I'm sharing my environment in Fabric with some reports ready prepared. And the idea of showing you this here is to showcase the direct lake feature, since it's a game changer in terms of performance and really the thing that brings together all of the other advancements in Fabric. And here we have a report with the sample data. As you see, it's 330 million data set. It's a public worldwide importers data set from Microsoft, but it has around 330 million rows. Depending on your company size, it might be a small table, it might be a big table, depends really. But with this particular report, you might want to know the total profit by state with insights about the corresponding unit price and customer type, for example. So all we have to do here, once the report is, of course, modeled properly and also is using the direct lake connectivity, is you can start clicking around on any of the blocks that are interesting to you. And once it warms up, let's see what we have in terms of the speed of performance with a report like this. So once you first open your reporting in Fabric, it needs to be heated up a little bit, but once it has done so, it will be working with speed that it's meant to be working with for all the users. So here we see that the numbers changed, and now we can start clicking around the other blocks as well. As you can see, the numbers are all then recounted depending on where we are clicking, and that's the performance you can expect to get, for example, with something like 330 million rows. We call that the small report, however, because we also have the large report, which has almost 7 billion rows. So similar story, direct link connection. We're getting the updates in real time, if anything's being inserted, updated, etc. So analysis services engine here is scanning Delta in real time, the most recent version of it. And again, let's see what is the performance that we can get with something like 7 billion rows. As you can see, again, the numbers are recalculated in all the respective windows on the visuals, and that's really the magic that happens behind the scene. And you can see what it results to in terms of performance as well. So with this, I have gone over time a little bit, hoping that it's okay. And that's all that we wanted to share with you today in terms of a very condensed and shortened version of what Fabric is and what you can expect to be using from it, what kind of scenarios you can use it for, what workloads, what engines are there, what's the pricing like, and covered a little bit the more interesting parts of Copilot and AI, just to give a taster for that, as more is expected to be coming, of course, in the AI space, generally speaking. So Fabric will not be, again, an exception for you. For next steps, if you're interested or planning any analytics projects where you expect to be needing help, if you just want to make your acquaintance a bit deeper from technical perspective, in how to work with Fabric, maybe more information, for example, technical perspective on how you can get code versioning done, for example, Spark, for example, different release management techniques, anything like this, the technical nitty-gritty. You can also ask to organize a one-to-one workshop for your organization. As I said, it's supported by Microsoft, so it's free of charge for you as the customer. So you can get your data engineers, architects, analysts all involved. And for any questions, or generally if there's any need for us to discuss anything in regards to analytics, data warehousing, or Fabric, we'd be happy to stay in touch. So feel free to do so via the SaaS Innovation Hub. And we'll look forward to connecting with you. Thank you.